There's a silent fatherhood toxin right under our dad noses, and we don't even realize it. Technology, aka our smartphones, is affecting dads negatively in presence, patience, and strength. If we don't change the way that we're using technology, we risk our kids seeing the wrong image of what it means to be a real dad. I'm Andrew Russell, founder of DatterUp, and I'm on a mission to promote and celebrate what it means to be a dad. A 2023 survey of 2,000 U.S. parents, it found parents spend about 5 hours a day on their electronic devices compared to less than 4 hours in meaningful activities with their kids. Now, if this doesn't make you stop and think, I really don't know what will. Now, I noticed the same thing in myself, unfortunately, that I was struggling and using technology a little bit too much, and it was affecting me in my presence, in my patience with my kids, and in my health. So, the first step, as with anything, is like, hey, I have a problem. So sometimes you get so caught up in your routines, you don't realize that there are certain things you're doing, certain habits, especially as it relates to technology and smartphones, they're actually negatively affecting your relationship with your kids. So the first thing was, hey, this is something I want to improve. It's kind of called out to my attention by my oldest daughter. And the second piece is, all right, now I'm going to work on these 3 specific pillars of being a great dad. The second piece, of course, is what am I going to do to fix them? So starting with presence, there were some things that I kind of noticed along the way. And luckily, I was called out hardcore by my oldest daughter that although I was there and I was physically present, I may have not been mentally or emotionally present. Just be there with your kids. You're there physically. You're at the sports. You're watching the games, but are you really watching? And you're on your phone. I mean, it just becomes so habitual in society between the swiping and the phone. It's just like you go out to dinner. What do? You put your phone on the table. There's so many meta messages. Speaking to Dr. Kari Adamson's great conversation, she made me realize after the conversation that there's these things called meta messages. So when your kids see you consistently on your phone, you're basically telling them subconsciously that they're not important enough for your full attention. And unfortunately, this is the thing with society now. It's just everyone has their phones out. It's almost like this appendage that's attached to you. I realized there was a problem when it was called out hardcore by my oldest daughter when she basically brought up that I was, long story short, I was on my phone so much that it made her feel and her sister, my youngest daughter, feel that they just weren't important enough for my attention. So we came up with all these cool rules. I realized this is a problem. Clearly, if they're at 9 and 7 calling this out, then I'm doing something wrong. I'm blessed enough that they are calling it out, which gave me an opportunity to correct it. So we came up with all these cool rules, right? The first rule is ultimately that although I'm an entrepreneur and a business owner, and anybody in sales knows if you're not there to answer your phone, it could be problematic for clients or whatever it is. And I had a hard conversation with myself. Nothing happens if I'm more present with my kids and I put my phone down for an hour or two. Nothing. There's no fires that have to be put out. The world is not going to end. So number one, had a real conversation with myself that just removing the technology is not going to have a harmful effect in my business or anything in life. So that was the first thing, just that realization and actualization that nothing bad will actually happen and getting the reps of not having my phone on me. The second piece is coming up with certain times where, number one, I will put the phone away and be more present regardless of what they're doing. And number two, the times where it is acceptable for me actually to be on my phone. So as an example, right, Wednesday we have soccer. We're blessed, or I'm blessed that my kids are very athletic. So we get home, we have showers, we change, we have dinner. And then from dinner until bedtime, there's, typically it's a great time for guys like me just to be mindlessly on my phone while they're on the couch and we're doing whatever. And I'm not really there. I'm not really present. I'm not giving them attention. I'm not spending quality time. Physically, I'm there. I'm there almost as a security or a safeguard to make sure that they're healthy and safe. But I'm not really there, and we're not building any type of rituals, quality time, anything of the sort. So we have this rule that I have to put my phone away, put it on silent, turn off all the stuff, and I'm there, and whatever they're doing, I'm kind of doing with them. I'm unfortunately on record, I absolutely hate Roblox. There's something about Roblox that I'm just like allergic to it. My kids love Roblox. There's brain rots, which I've alluded to in many videos. Whatever happened to Mario Brothers or Mario Kart or various things, but I digress. So we have a rule, whatever they're doing, I'm going to do it with. We have other kind of games that they're really interested in now. They're kind of getting into cards, which is cool. I've taught them Jim Rummy. There's some Monopoly games that we play. So we just do these really cool quality time things together. And what I've noticed is over time, if you do this over a month, you have so many more memories, so much more great quality time, so many more good rituals that you have, all because you're just not on your technology. So you lose a day, something happens at work, you're on your technology, you're not spending quality time with your kids, the world's not going to end, but you're never getting that day back. That's a big thing I've noticed with my kids, especially my older daughter who's turning 10 next year. I can't believe that I have a 10-year-old next year. Time flies. I'm not going to say I look back and I regret. I don't really have any regrets because I did my best. I was definitely as present as I could be. But wouldn't it be cool if you get one more of those days when they were little or, cute? Now they're getting older and dad's a little bit more cringy and various things. I try to make sure I win the day because I realize that some of these days, the yesterdays of the world, they're not really coming back. So I make sure that whatever it is that they're doing, I really buy into it. I do it with them. But we also have this other rule, which is whenever they're playing a specific game in Roblox, that I don't have to be present and doing it. So I have like a certain window. I usually let them play between 30 minutes and 60 minutes. And with that, I can actually check my phone. I find myself, believe it or not even checking my phone and just kind of staying with them because my younger daughter especially, she loves when I'm like paying attention and, whatever her avatars are that she's changing. It's just more the meta messages. I can't stress it enough that if it's just something about that, being there, being present, showing them that you actually care, it means so much to them. So I had a real big problem with presence just because I can go on record and say I'm somewhat of a phone addict as an entrepreneur and a sales guy and, all that good stuff. But when I worked on that, number one, I admitted there was a problem. And number two, came up with new rituals or new ways to be more present, absent of technology. I definitely can say my relationship with my kids remarkably improved. All right, so the second thing that I realized that I was struggling with that I had to work on was patience. And I came up with this really cool strategy. But before I get into the strategy, make sure, guys, you go in the description, click the link. I realized that in me being a father to my two daughters, there's 5 specific pillars of, call it dadding, of things that I felt were things to focus on and potentially some of them to work on. There's presence, there's patience, there's strength, which we've talked about, there's leadership, and there's legacy. Now, I've realized that there's many dads, including myself, that really do very well in maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 of the pillars of being a great dad. But maybe one, you're on the struggle bus, right? So I call these the flex 5. So for instance, myself, I was doing great with patience. I'm very patient with my kids. I just have like this thing where I'm very patient with kids just in general. Leadership, I was doing great. Legacy, I was doing fantastic. But let's call it strength, which includes health and vitality. I was not doing all that good. I weighed too many lbs around the waist, a little bit too much on the Uber Eats side, maybe a glass of wine here and there. All that did was is added weight. And, it's one thing to be a little bit chubby. It's another thing to worry about heart attack, worry about stroke, to worry about showing up for your kids and being able to be physically active or making excuses to not go on the walk or not kick the soccer ball. So that was something that I struggled with. So that's something that I had to focus on. So just make sure you go in the description, click the link, get our free Flex 5 assessment. What you're going to do is there's going to be questions for each of the 5. And when you answer, it's going to tell you where you're strong of the 5 and what are some of the things that you could work on as relates to the 5 that we're going over. That's going to show you all these cool tips and strategies on how to improve which of the 5 needs work. So go in the description, click the link, get the free Flex 5 assessment that comes with the free workbook once you fill it out, once you finish the questions. We've noticed that dads that take this assessment and start working on actively the things that need improvement have seen results in as little as 30 days. And what are the results? This isn't like you're going to see results at work or see results in your head. This is results with your kids. The relationship with your kids will improve. So make sure, guys, go in the description, click the link, and take the free assessment. So the second is patience. So I realized that I get very triggered by technology. So if you're in any type of sales business, you're an entrepreneur, or just in any type of business that you're on your phone or just on your phone just a lot in general, I realize that the consistent pinging on the way home, right? So let's say I have a 30-minute drive on the way home, and I love going home to see my kids. Whether it's I'm going home to see them and they have a sitter, or I'm home and we kind of like concurrently meet at the same time that the sitter's bringing their, shout out to Karen, at the same time to my house. It's almost like Christmas. Every single time I get to see my kids after a hard day, a good day, whatever it is, to me, it's like Christmas. But unfortunately, I do get very triggered by my technology, by my smartphone, by all the notifications. So I realized that, if you own a mortgage company or you're running a new business, right, this whole data up thing, like there are things that happen throughout the day. Not all of it is bubblegum and rainbows. Sometimes things happen in the mortgage side. Sometimes things happen in the market. Sometimes things happen in your retirement, right? In the market. You never know, right? With the economy being up and down. So there were times that I wasn't showing up as the best version of myself, and I wasn't as patient as I should be, meaning I wasn't mentally there. I was, not as quick to answer them or be engaged, or I was too quick. Like, hey, how was your day? Good, cool. And I'm like in my head and over it. And I really didn't have the patience to kind of show up and really do the thing with them, meaning like love on them, quality time. I just was like a little bit on edge and lacking patience in so many words. So what I realized is, recommend this for relationships as well, that if you come home and you come home from a high stress environment, just in general, to actually turn off your technology, put your phone on silent, turn off, whatever music you're listening to, and just be in the quiet of your car and pick a specific location. So say you live off of a highway and then it's 5 minutes. So right before you get to the exit, turn off all your technology and be in the silence and just in your own thoughts and take deep breaths and give yourself that 5 or 10 minutes to kind of decompress, unwind. So when you do get home, as in the case of being in a relationship and see your partner, you show up as a better version of yourself, more relaxed and more calm with more patience, right? So the same thing applied to me and my kids. So I gave it a shot and it really worked. So what I do is right before I get off the highway, it's about like a 7-minute, drive off the highway to get to my house. So I do the same thing, and sometimes I make a mistake, and I really have to hyper-focus on it. I actually wrote a note in my car in the corner that I know what it means. It's just as a reminder, because it's very easy to get caught up in whatever's happening at work or all the stressors with your phone. So I make sure I turn off my technologies, put them on silent. I stop bumping the house music, and I just sit in silence, take deep breaths, and decompress. I could tell you, for me, it's remarkably improved my relationship with my kids, only because the little things, right? Every time you show up with your kids and you don't have patience, it affects the moment, it affects the day, and you're not winning the day. Now, good news, typically, you have a lot of these days, but what I wouldn't do to get back some of the days that I lost, or to have this strategy years ago before I knew or kind of came up with some of this stuff. So for me, to counterbalance technology and issues with patience, I've realized turn off the technology, take deep breaths, decompress. So when you do see your kids and show up, you're just a better version of yourself, and you, without a doubt, will have more patience, which leads to better quality time. Now, the third, and potentially the most important, which is the most overlooked, is strength. Specifically in this case, is health. And I realized technology is amazing. Literally, it was just New Year's Eve. I went on my phone, pressed the button. 30 minutes later, this cool guy showed up with Veuve Clicquot. That's right, with champagne. All I did was take out a device, press a button. 30 minutes later, guy shows up with champagne for New Year's Eve. I didn't even have to do anything. So it's a blessing, but it's also a curse. So I realized with this ease of use with technology, it was affecting me showing up for my kids in a lot of ways. Specifically, how easy is it to just, Uber Eats it, right? And what do you get off Uber Eats? Typically on Uber Eats is fast food. Now, fast food was not designed, and this is obviously, you can debate this, but it's not designed for more of a health-conscious household. It's more for fast, right? Easy. So, especially in the case that I'm oftentimes solo parenting, it's so easy, like I said, entrepreneur, tough day, things are happening, fires at work, kids are coming home, you gotta, pack the bags, throw these two wild children into the shower, right? Make sure they do the thing. Make sure they blow dry their hair, brush their hair, put on the pajamas, read the books, do the homework, all the good stuff. Dinner is just another variable, especially if you're a solo parent. It's just another variable that's oftentimes very difficult. It takes a lot of time and prep and, planning. So what's the easy thing to do? Pull out your phone, click on Uber Eats. Within 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, magically all this delicious food shows up. But if that consistently over time was my tendency, and it was, I realized that, number one, it's not healthy for the kids. Number two, it's not healthy for me being a parent to the kids. Listen, if you're a dad and your kids get McDonald's and you're on a diet, I hate to break to you because I've been there, you're having some of the fries. Like, do you know how delicious nuggets are when you're on a diet? And you never just have one. It's like one turns into two and, whatever it is. So, of course, one day as a treat, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But as a consistent thing, which is what I was doing, just the ease of use of technology as it relates to food with Uber Eats and just instant gratification, if you want to call that from a food perspective. Unfortunately, health is wealth. And I want to start instilling that better, or I just started instilling that a little bit better as of late, because again, I realized you just get in these bad habits. Work is hard, this is hard, run out of time. It's so easy to just press a button and magically this delicious stuff shows up. But I realized is, number one, that's wrong. So there's a problem with that. So I realized that both for myself and for my kids, we're going to remove the technology barrier and start old schooling it, meaning we go to Stop and Shop, we walk through the aisles, which is good just for health in general, getting your steps and getting more active, not just sitting on a couch pressing a button. All this fried food shows up at your door. Then we plan out healthier meals, right? More of the chickens, more of the, believe it or not, my kids love fish, or call it shrimp. Instead of the fried French fries. We do cauliflower rice. Just these little wins turn into massive victories as it relates to being a parent. So I realized, number one, that was a big problem. It was a problem for myself. And obviously, I was kind of like projecting that onto my kids. And then when I made those changes, I saw instantly our vitality and our health definitely improved. All right, guys. So those were the three things that I realized technology was affecting me as a dad from a negative perspective. So I realized, number one, that there was a problem there and I had to work on that. And number two, came up with these solutions for presence, patience, and strength on what I could do to kind of turn technology on its head and potentially remove it completely to improve myself as a dad. But make sure, guys, before you scroll to the next video, hop in the description, click the link, take our free Flex 5 assessment. It's a disc for dads, and it's going to show you in presence, patience, strength, leadership, and legacy. We call it our Flex 5. What are the things you're doing great at? What are some things that need improvement? And then once you take the assessment, we're going to give you our free workbook that's going to give you ways to improve in the areas that you're struggling with. All right, so make sure you go to the description and click the link, take the free assessment, get the workbook. It's awesome. Get results in as little as 30 days. Make sure you take it. All right, so we talked in this video, we spoke about technology, how it's affecting dads, negatively speaking, right? But I brought up this term like a real dad. It's affecting dads becoming a real dad. So what is a real dad? So make sure you watch our next video where we're actually going to talk about what makes dads real dads and what does it entail.